So interestingly enough, we're now understanding why certain diseases can lead to dementia. We all know that if you have diabetes, not only are you likely to live 10 years younger than your peers who don't have diabetes, all things being equal, but also we know that diabetes can lead to things like dementia and memory loss. Hypertension is a big problem too. We are now beginning to see that chronic untreated hypertension can cause damage to the blood-brain barrier, making it more permeable and leading to the leakage of certain chemicals into the brain that can eventually trigger a cascade of reactions that eventually lead to dementia, Alzheimer's disease. And interestingly enough, one of those chemicals is albumin. Albumin, that's super abundant protein in the body. Albumin, they're looking at as one of those triggers that leaks out of the bloodstream, past the blood-brain barrier into the brain, and triggers a cascade of reactions that can lead to dementia. So it's very important that you make sure your patients, if you're a doctor or healthcare professional out there, you make sure that blood pressure is kept at normal. And now they're saying 130/80. It shouldn't be anything higher than that. Psychiatric, mental health, we know depression, chronic depression can be a problem. Schizophrenia can be a big problem. And of course, neurological conditions, like, for instance, hearing loss, especially in midlife. And why is that so? Well, some of the theories is that hearing takes so much brain power and processing power that once that begins to fail, it's harder, it affects the processing power of the brain itself and can lead to dementia. Remember, the brain takes over 20%, sometimes 25% of the whole energy expenditure of the body, 2% by mass and weight, over 20% in terms of energy expenditure. So once hearing loss begins to go, there is a problem with that. It can affect dementia. Another thing we're finding out too, and this is not as well publicized, but even smell. There's one of my friends who's a professor at Howard, and he's also was a professor at Johns Hopkins. He's now looking into smell, how smell loss can lead to dementia, because you got to remember, one of the few parts of the brain that participates in neurogenesis, the production of new brain cells, is the olfactory cortex and the olfactory area of the brain. It produces new brain cells. Once that is affected, and one of the evidences of that being affected is of course, smell, hair, and loss of smell. Interestingly enough, they're beginning to see that. He's beginning to see in his patients who have had COVID with loss of smell, he is also beginning to see problems with dementia. So that's scary stuff, I gotta say.